Woman is the shadow of man, beautiful, but bound to his light. Nietzsche's words cut like a blade through the fog of your longing. Picture a man alone in a shadowed room, the kind of darkness that presses heavier than silence. On the table sits a phone that hasn't rung in days. He stares at it, waiting for her voice, her laughter, her chaos, her need. He built a pedestal for her, carved from the marrow of his own dreams, and placed her there, a goddess in his story. But the pedestal is cracking. Her reflection in his mind's mirror shows not a goddess, but a girl who never grew, a girl who chained him to her endless storm. And he didn't see it, not until the silence grew louder than her promises. This is the myth you've lived, man. The myth of the perfect woman, the soulmate who completes you, the one you were destined to save. You thought her softness was love, her need was connection. But Carl Jung saw through the illusion long before you felt its weight. He called her the Puella Eterna, the eternal girl, frozen in a fantasy where life is magical, effortless, and always someone else's burden. You felt her chains, haven't you? The ones you mistook for devotion, the ones that tightened with every tear she shed, every storm she summoned. Here on dark Psyphoria, we don't turn from the shadows. We step into them, tracing the cracks where truth bleeds through. Subscribe, not for distraction, but for the clarity you've buried too long. Your own. You've known her. Maybe you loved her. Maybe you still do. She was a whirlwind of light, playful, soft, her laughter a melody you chased through the nights. But then came the storms, the indecisiveness that left you stranded, waiting for her to choose a path she'd never walk. The romantic delusions she spun, fairy tales where you were the knight, but never the man. The emotional spirals that turned you into the villain for not being her savior. You felt it in your bones, the weight of carrying someone who wouldn't walk beside you. The silence after her outbursts wasn't empty. It was a blade cutting through the man you thought you were. Let's break this down through Jung's lens, peeling back the layers. Biological, psychological, spiritual. Biologically, she's wired for survival, her charm a mechanism to secure protection, not partnership. Her beauty, her softness, they're tools, evolutionary leverage to keep you close, to make you her shield while she dances in the light. Psychologically, she's a fractured mirror, reflecting not depth, but a void. Jung called it the Puella Eterna, a psyche frozen in girlhood, avoiding the pain of growth, the responsibility of reality. She dances around life, waiting for someone to fix the pieces she won't touch. Her emotions a performance on a stage you didn't know you were watching. Spiritually, she's a ghost, haunting her own potential, clinging to innocence because the divine feminine, focused, grounded, ferocious, demands a strength she never claimed, a strength she fears more than death. You thought her softness was love, but it was control. Her tears weren't vulnerability, they were chains, binding you to her chaos. You thought her need for you was connection, but it was dependence, a hunger that drained you dry. One minute she was warmth, her laughter filling the room like sunlight. The next, she was calculation, her silence a weapon, her demands a cage. You didn't see it then, but you feel it now. The mirror she held wasn't showing you love. It was showing you the man you became to keep her, smaller, softer, a shadow of your own sovereignty. Have you ever mistaken her chaos for passion? Did she grow, or did you just stop seeing the girl behind the mask? There's a moment you missed, a moment where stillness could have saved you. When she spiraled, when her emotions crashed like waves, you dove in, thinking love meant drowning with her. But what if you'd stood still? What if you'd let her storms pass without becoming her anchor? That choice, to stand in your own gravity, to let her chaos orbit without pulling you in, that's the revolution Jung wanted you to claim. Her world is a stage, her persona a mask of light, but behind it lies shadow, a refusal to grow, a fear of the dark truths Jung called the shadow. You were her audience, captivated by the performance, but never seeing the chains she wrapped around you. Love versus control. You thought you were choosing love, but she was choosing control, her need a leash you didn't feel until it tightened. Truth versus illusion. You saw a woman, but the illusion was a girl, her maturity a myth you wrote in your own longing. Connection versus dependence. Pause. Feel the weight of that. The man you were, builder, protector, leader, shrank to fit her mirror. You adjusted, you softened, you avoided conflict, became her emotional parent, her therapist, her savior. And in that surrender, you lost your center. You thought it was noble, but it was a betrayal of yourself. Now step back. Look at the chains. They weren't just hers. They were yours, forged in the myth you believed, that love means saving, that her need means your purpose. Jung warned us, whatever you do not bring into consciousness will return as fate. And that's what happened. You didn't see the pattern, so it became your prison. You kept choosing her, the same eternal girl, the same emotional storms, each time hoping it would be different. It wasn't. Not because she couldn't change, but because she didn't want to. Society didn't just allow this, it built the stage. Social media floods you with her image, light, carefree, untouched by life. That's the persona, Jung said. The mask she wears to survive, the compromise between who she is and what the world expects. But behind it, there's no foundation. And you, man, builder, protector, stepped in to be that foundation. You weren't supposed to. You were never taught to see her fear of adulthood disguised as freedom, her rebellion against routine dressed as independence, her inability to commit spun as keeping her options open. She lives in a suspended state, forever romanticizing potential, forever resisting consequence. She wants the rewards of maturity without the price, intimacy without accountability, love without growth. She says she wants a real man, but when you arrive, she panics. Because a real man demands a real woman, not a child wrapped in charm, not a damsel addicted to being rescued. And that's where your guilt should land. Not because you failed her, but because you failed yourself. You stayed blind too long. You saw her avoid hard conversations, deflect responsibility, spiral at the first sign of difficulty, and you called it love. Jung would call it projection. You projected depth onto her chaos, gave meaning to her storms. You romanticized her need for you, mistaking dependence for connection. That wasn't love. That was unconsciousness on both sides. Jung warned that the unconscious seeks balance. So if she refuses to grow, you overcompensate. You became her emotional anchor, her stabilizer, her everything, sacrificing your peace to weather her storms. A man stands in a cold hallway, the echo of her voice fading behind a closed door. His hand trembles as he grips the knob, the weight of her words. You're not enough. Cutting deeper than any blade. He wants to turn back, to fix her pain, to be her hero. But the mirror on the wall shows a stranger, a man drained, a man chained, a man who forgot his own name. What if love was never the cure, only the mirror showing you the parts of yourself you refuse to face? As Nietzsche said, that which is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil. You thought you were loving her, but you were losing yourself, beyond good, beyond evil, into the void of her unfinished story. Her refusal to grow isn't just her failure, it's a cultural script. She was raised this way, overprotected, praised for beauty, never for strength. Taught to please, never to lead. She learned to survive through charm, not character. And society rewards it, flooding your feeds with women who seem untouched by life's weight. But that's the mask. Behind it, there's no substance. And you tried to be her substance, her gravity, her everything, until you realized you were sinking with her. The chains tighten. Her mirror reflects not just her, but you, the man who longed to be needed, who craved the softness you never claimed within yourself. Jung taught that a man who hasn't made peace with his anima, his inner feminine, will be manipulated by it in the outside world. That's what happened. You were drawn to her because she mirrored your unresolved psyche, the softness you crave, the chaos you deny, the validation you never received. And without realizing it, you built your identity around being her anchor. But an anchor tied to a sinking ship doesn't save anything. It goes down with it. How long will you let her chaos define your horizon when the open sea of your own purpose waits? You made excuses. She's just figuring things out, you said. She's been through a lot. She's not ready yet. Maybe that was true, but it doesn't change the deeper truth. She didn't want to grow. She wanted comfort, fantasy, escape. And you mistook that for femininity. But real feminine energy isn't fragile. It's focused, creative, grounded, even ferocious when fully developed. The eternal girl has none of that. She has only projection and performance. Return to that shadowed room, the phone that never rang, the pedestal you built. The wound isn't that she left, or that she never grew. The wound is the man you became to keep her, chained to her mirror, a reflection of her chaos instead of your own sovereignty. You didn't lose her. You lost yourself. Here's the truth Jung wanted you to face. If she hasn't faced her shadow, if she hasn't integrated the painful truths about herself, she'll make you carry them. And you'll drown under the weight of emotions that were never yours to begin with. You kept waiting for her to rise, to meet you in adulthood. But she was never climbing. She was clinging. To youth, to fantasy, to the safety of being someone else's responsibility. And you let her. Not because you're weak, but because you didn't know better. But now you do. Jung believed growth begins when we confront the parts of ourselves we've avoided. For you, that means seeing clearly, no longer confusing emotional chaos for depth, no longer mistaking helplessness for vulnerability, no longer being seduced by the idea of being needed. You wanted to be the hero in her story, but you ignored your own. You weren't built to rescue. You were built to lead, to discern, to stand in reality, not fantasy. That's your gravity, your sovereignty, your mission. He stands in a quiet street, the city's hum fading, his breath held too long as the weight of years lifts. The mirror shatters, the chains fall, and for the first time he hears his own heartbeat, steady, unburdened, free. As Montaigne wrote, the greatest thing in the world is to know how to belong to oneself. That's your path now, belonging to yourself, not her. Have you felt these chains? Have you seen your reflection in her mirror? Tell us below, so no man feels like he's breaking alone. If this truth broke the illusion for you, share it. Not for the noise, but for the man who's still asleep, still chained, still waiting for a call that will never come. This is dark Psyphoria, where the mirror shatters, and the man you were always meant to be begins. What will you see the next time you look in her mirror, her chains or your own freedom? Thank you for watching. Walk your path with quiet strength.